Who's in charge? Me or the devil?
Oh my goodness.
It's going to be a yellow card. I can't speak.
In your life have you seen anything like that?
Are you serious, my brother?
Hold on a minute now. You've jumped over the fence, baby. We're entitled to do our analysis whatever way we want.
Thank you, O'Shea. And he gave him a belt after the ball. Jerry, right!
So hello everyone and welcome back to the P. Carroll Sport Podcast. Paul Carroll here, and over the course of the next half an hour or so I'm going to be looking ahead to Tipperary against Clare in the Munster Senior Hurling Championship. The game will be taking place later today, of course, in FPD Semple Stadium. This podcast is going out Saturday morning. As I sit here, I'm sitting on the couch. I'm just back from Semple Stadium on Friday evening. I've got the Players' Championship on the TV in front of me, and I'm going to talk hurling to myself in this room for the next half an hour, and hopefully you get something from it. So I'm going to be talking about, obviously, about the match on Saturday evening, but we're going to reflect back on the Munster Minor hurling final, which I've just attended, and also the Munster Under-20 hurling final. So mixed results there for Tipperary. So a disclaimer to start. This is a bit of a Michael Jordan flu game of a podcast for me. Don't quite have the flu, but I don't know what I have. I have a very runny nose. So I was commentating on the minor game today. Had to mute my microphone an awful lot to just like clear my nose and things. So you know, I'm putting in the work here. I'm going above and beyond, but it is the Munster Championship season, so you just can't miss these things. So what way do we want to start? We talk about the senior first or senior last? I think we should probably talk about what's fresh in my mind, and that is the Munster Minor hurling final. What a result for Tipperary, 3-16 to 18-point winners over Limerick. And I'll just remind us before we get started properly, like the video, subscribe if you haven't already. It's been a few weeks since our last podcast because seniors haven't played in 3 weeks, and there's been different things going on as well. So we're back. If you enjoy the videos, be sure to like, subscribe if you haven't already. It's all free here. And let's get into it. The Tipperary Minor hurlers, 3-16 to 18-point winners over Limerick in Semple Stadium, I should say. And a brilliant win for Tipperary. One of those games, the first half in particular was very slow to kind of come to light. You could argue it didn't come to light in that first half. A lot of kind of mistakes, and you have to remember minor these days is under 17 young lads, and prone to mistakes and maybe just a bit of nerves in a big game. But I think it was more so just the setups of the team. The balls were playing a lot in around the middle third, let's say, and in both sides half back lines. I thought Tip kind of struggled to bring the ball out of their half back line at times. There's a couple of times that due to Limerick's work rate, particularly in their forward line, that Tip couldn't work the ball out of their half-back line, and just a lot of rucks and no real flow to the game in the first half. But Tipperary did get a fortuitous goal. Conall Morrison, who we will get to because he put on an absolute show inside in Thurles. But his goal in the first half was fortuitous. A ball, attempted point, drops short. Goalkeeper Sam Collins in the goals for Limerick goes up with a hand, just drops out of his hand and rolls over the end line, or rolls over the goal line, and a goal for Tipperary. And it was only over by an inch, 2 inches, I'd say. I haven't watched it back now. If you're watching on telly, you might have seen maybe it was over a bit more, but it certainly didn't look like much, as Rory McIlroy nearly gets a hole in one there as the ball rolls on past. I'm watching the golf, as I said, in the background. But that was Tipperary's first goal, Conall Morrison. So being a past goalkeeper myself, feel bad for the Limerick goalkeeper, Sam Collins. But in fairness to him, another high ball came in a few minutes later, and he went up with the hand again, backed himself and caught it and cleared his line. So that shows the mettle of him, because just these things happen. I think anyone who's played in goals, that has happened to you at some stage. I struggle to believe there's a goalkeeper out there that has had any sort of a length of time playing in goals where they haven't done something like that. I can still remember doing it under 16 match in Kilcoman against Killadangan. I can remember it so well. Dan O'Mara from Killadangan, who plays their seniors now, bit of a scuffed effort under the crossbar. I went up with a hand, hit off my hand, went into the back net. I still remember it. Scoreboard end in Kilcoman, if you're aware of Burgess GA Club's home ground. So you remember those things. But Sam Collins Do you know what can you do? It's just such is life. But that was Tipperary's first goal. The second goal then, KJ Dunn got on the end of. It was a deflected shot from Conal Morrison, went up into the air, landed on the edge of the 14. Zach O'Keefe caught it. He took a shot. That was deflected back to KJ Dunn, and he finished it from close range. He was very threatening throughout the game, was KJ Dunn. So at half-time, it was 2-6 to 10 points. And yeah, it just had that kind of feeling that, okay, Tipper, lucky to be in the lead here. Limerick got some absolutely outrageous scores in that first half. John O'Riordan, their number 7, with a big score. Eamon O'Sullivan got a brilliant point as well in that first half. And there was another one as well. Was it Shane Waters from a long ways out? They got some brilliant scores, did Limerick. And Limerick had some tidy players. Thought Jack Roach in the middle of the field. Conor Ryan in the second half for Limerick had a really fine game. Xavier Nelligan, what a name. He was threatening Trout in the middle of the field. They were a good partnership, himself and Jack Roach. And they brought on some really good subs in the second half, I thought. Rian Horgan looked a real threat for Limerick in that second half when he came on. But for Tipperary, the second half, much better. Started it quick. Éanna Tucker, Chris Dunn got a few scores straight away. But they couldn't shake Limerick off. It was one of those games you felt like a big moment would have to come either way. And it looked like it had gone to Limerick. They scored a goal. It was corner forward Eamon O'Sullivan put it into the back of the net, hand pass across the edge of the goals, and he was there, but he was in the square. Again, I've watched it once live when I was commentating on Tip FM. I don't think he could have many complaints. He certainly looked to be in the square when he caught the ball. So square ball. Tipperary led off the hook. Then another big moment. Tipperary goalkeeper Owen Connolly with a big save. I have it written down on my notes there. 46th minute of the game. That was to deny. I'm not sure who it was. I can't remember exactly, but it was from close range. I'm trying to think. Was it? It was John Ross O'Reilly, I think it was, who got on the end of a lovely move. Diarmuid Crowe broke the line, hand passed it into the edge of the 21. Another hand pass went out to John Ross O'Reilly, and a brilliant save. Just brave, closed down the angle from Owen Connolly, and out for 65 it went. So that was a big moment. But Tipperary had the X factor, and the X factor was Conal Morrison. He scored 2-4 from play, as I have it down, and just the 4 points he got they were all just so good. One of them was a real quick rise while spinning on the edge of the D, and in one movement put it over the bar real quick. Another one was just out on the sideline, snapped a puck out, looked like he got fouled, play continued over the bar. Just some brilliant scores. Another one curled in onto his left hand side and over the bar. Just had it all, and he was that X factor, and he was threatening throughout. But it was his second goal that put the cherry on top. Tip were in the lead, I think, by 3 points at this stage, possibly 4. No, it was 3 points at the time, and you kind of felt they needed one more score because this was a minute or two into additional time, and Limerick were going to be bombing balls down to the edge of the square. But Conal Morrison flicked it past the defender. Defender coming out, 30 yards from goals, trying to rise it. Conal Morrison gets there just before him, flicks it in around him, gets in behind, and does really well in those situations. There's a really good clip on Munster GA of a camera angle of behind the end line, and just a close-up shot. Really hard skill when you're running at full pelt to just rise the ball into your hand at first time under pressure when you know a goal chance is there. But he got it up into his hand without breaking stride and buried it low past the goalkeeper. But what a performance it was from Conal Morrison. If you've been a long time listener to this podcast, or even just this year, you would have heard me mention his name before. I'm a big fan of him. KJ Dunn had a fine game as well. Chris Dunn had a couple of goal chances. One, he was half hooked. The other one, he was hooked again, I think, for 2 goal chances. One of them was probably a piece of brilliant defending. One of them was he kind of planted his feet a bit instead of kind of moving with the ball, but he nailed frees when he had to. Zach O'Keefe looked threatening. He got a big score towards the end of the game, a big point. Éanna Tucker with 3 points. Conor Kendi, the only Tip forward to not score, but he put in an absolutely unbelievable shift, in fairness to him. I'd say I'd say his GPS stats are off the charts. Elsewhere for Tipperary, James Finn had like an unbelievable 60 seconds of play in the second half, where long ball comes into the edge of the square. He's there to catch it, plays an absolute dart of a ball out to the wing back, and Tip cleared her lines. Then 20 seconds later, the ball is sent back up into the Tipperary half back line. from a Limerick defender, and James Finn snaps it out of the sky. He's fouled, puts the ball down halfway between the 45 and 65, and puts the free over the bar. So he was a real star performer for Tipperary. But two people that really caught my eye, I've mentioned Colin Ryan before. I really like how he plays, and he goes to school in Ardscoil Reach, so would be familiar with a lot of these Limerick lads. They would have won the Dean Ryan Cup with a good number of these players. He was very good. But the captain, Conor Collins, I thought he just looked the part. He came out with an awful lot of ball, blocked lads down, won the ball back off him. I'd say he was a nightmare to mark, and he looked really, really impressive. Certainly one for the future is the Galtee Rovers man, Conor Collins. So really good performance. Like, I've gone through all the players there, and they all played their part. The people I didn't mention, Oisin Kennedy, Daniel Groom, fullback, Travis McLaughlin, Shane Ryan, Hugo Healy, like they all played their part. Ree McGrath and Kieran O'Mahony off the bench alongside Kieran Gantley. So real team effort for Tipperary and a brilliant win. They're into an All-Ireland semi-final now. Limerick go marching on to the quarterfinals. So that'll all have to be figured out before we see who Tipperary play. But well done to James Woodlock. John, he took over in 2021, won the All-Ireland in 22, won the All-Ireland in 24, and now has the Munster title in 26. So a really good track record there. And interestingly enough, it's every second year. So that's just a kink in that stat. But that's it for the minors. Brilliant performance. And hopefully they can get through an All-Ireland semi-final when that day comes. I don't have the fixture for that, but and push on to an All-Ireland final. So that was the minors. The under-20s. Where do you start with this game? Tipperary against Clare in what was the winteriest May evening ever that I've experienced anyway. It was like November. It was so cold inside in the Gaelic grounds. It was windy. It was wet. It was just, what are we doing here? Like, it's the middle of May. Can we get a bit of sun? Can we get a nice evening? What's going on here? But anyway, at 2:24 apiece, it finished up after extra time against Clare, and this game kind of had it all. It had brilliant goals, fine scores, work rate, incredible blocks, refereeing decisions, extra time, penalties. It was incredible. I don't know how I'm going to break this game down in, how long are we into this? 12 minutes. So yeah, I don't want to spend too long before we get to the Tipperary-Clare senior game. But ultimately, Clare win at 4-3 on penalties. The clip seen around the world was Stephen Tobin's penalty that was saved by Mark Sheedy, which decided the game. And you could not fault Stephen Tobin whatsoever. I mean, he rifled that penalty towards the top right-hand corner. I'd say he hit it exactly where he wanted to hit it, struck it exactly how he wanted to strike it. You knew by the way he moved away after striking it that he thought this is money, like this is back of the net. But Mark Sheedy, who I've been a fan of for a while, seen him play with Clare in the last couple of years, and have always been a fan. He's kind of a confident goalkeeper, backs himself, doesn't seem to be too high or too low, kind of that kind of cool kind of a character of a goalkeeper, and is well able to make big saves. And that was a huge save, and it was on SportsCenter and ESPN and all that stuff. So an incredible save from him. But as I said before, after the game, if you're listening on Tip FM or if you're listening to Across the Line on Tip FM on Friday evening, which I do recommend you listen back to. I talked to Noel Dundon and Tommy Guilfoyle about the game on Saturday evening as well, so do check that out. But I mentioned that no one really missed any penalty. No one kind of like bottled it and hit a bad penalty or scuttered one wide or anything like that. Oisin O'Donoghue's penalty was saved. That was a really good strike. Same with, I believe it was Cormac Fitz who had his penalty saved as well, and Stephen Tobin. What could be said about that Stephen Tobin one? So I'm just going to have to take a sniffle here. This is what we're going to have to put up with for this flu game podcast. But give me a second here. Okay, that was needed. Sorry about that. So the game itself, what were we at half time? 111 to 10 points. Tipperary hit 13 wides in the first half. That's the true killer for Tipperary. 13 wides and a half. Some of them were bad wides. Some of them were... There was one I remember in particular where Shane Cleary hit it off his hurley, where he had Stephen Tobin on the run inside, and if he just popped it to him, Stephen would have been in one-on-one. So there was just little moments like that for Tipperary in that first half. But they went in 4 points up thanks to a brilliant goal from Jamie Ormond. Robbie Ryan done really well. let the ball in over his head. He does that a lot, and it works for him a lot, where he makes a run where the defender is nearly on his back, and he's able to just read it and let it go in behind the two of them. And he played a lovely ball across to Jamie Ormond. He got around the goalkeeper and put it into the back of the net. Really composed play from both Robbie Ryan and Jamie Ormond. Second half started then, and 7 seconds into the second half, Clare had a goal, and that was from Mark O'Cleary, who has scored 4 times in the Munster Under-20 Hurling Championship this year, and he's got 4 goals. So he just doesn't bother with the points. Why would you? Sure, they're only worth 1. You may as well go for goals worth 3. So he's got 4 goals to his name, and that one came after 7 seconds. As the half wore on then, Tipperary got their second goal of the game. That was through Stephen Tobin. I said it on commentary at the time. You can listen back to it if you want. It's on the Tip FM SoundCloud and probably the Tip FM YouTube as well. At the time, I was like, takes a lot of steps, but in fairness to him, if you watch it back, like people are giving out about the steps, and he did take, he took probably about 10 steps, like, but it's not to take away from the finish. Like, the finish itself was serious. He shortened the grip and put it into the corner past a really good goalkeeper. But when he got the ball, he got a hurley into the face, and then he got another slap across his body when the hurley was in his hand. So if you're complaining that he took steps, you kind of have to point out that he was fouled twice as well, so I'm sure that's all taken into account. But brilliant finish from Stephen Tobin. Then came the penalty for Clare with 3 minutes to go. It was on the soft side. There's an arm over the back of a forward. The ball isn't even landing on that forward. It's just one of those kind of soft ones, but what can you do? Fred Hegarty absolutely buried it. He scored 3 penalties, Fred Hegarty, because he got one from play, or not from play, but in normal time, and he also got 2 in the penalty shootout. Just leathered it, bottom corner job. Not much you could do really from Paddy McCormick, but that was the source of frustration, that penalty. But these decisions are, they're 50-50. They sometimes go for you, they sometimes don't. But as it wore on then, the Clare crowd weren't too happy at the very end of the game, where David Costigan makes an unbelievable block on what I believe was, who was taking that shot? I'm not too sure, actually. Was it Sean Arthur? I'm not too sure for Clare. An unbelievable block, and that was 3 minutes into additional time. Time was up, and the ball broke to a Clare man, and the ref had blown the full-time whistle. So, there was fair enough that the Clare people were upset with that. One of their Mayor Commons came onto the field and give out to the referee, and that was ruled dissent, and the extra time started with a free for Tipperary, which is not something you can see all too often. But there was, I did feel now Tipperary found it awful hard to get a free in extra time. There was certainly a long ball down on top of Jamie Ormond near the end, where Matthew O'Halloran, the cornerback, had 2 hands on his hurley and just nudged him into the back. One of those ones where it's so obvious. Referees call it all the time because it's just so obvious. And Tipperary didn't get it, and that would have been a free on the 45. Another thing that didn't go Tipperary's way, Cormac Fitzpatrick's free that hit the post. It's really unlucky. Like, it was he'd 80 minutes in his legs. He hit the free well. It just hits the post on a dirty May evening, and drops down to, there was no Tipperary man in around the square. So, what else can you say? Like, those little moments didn't go Tip's way, but you couldn't discredit Clare whatsoever. They were just absolutely dogged. Like, Tip or Clare players just didn't have any time on the ball. Both sets of players just absolutely gave it their all. It was actually incredible, and there was like a standing ovation when the full-time whistle went after extra time. Just an acknowledgement from the 6,500 people there of what a match we've seen, what effort we've seen from both sets of players. For Tipperary, Ewan Murray is just a really exciting prospect. He's really, really good. Stephen Tobin obviously 1-3, 1-5 though for Jamie Ormond. He was really the standout, and his good form has been rewarded. I have it that he has scored 3-14 in the Munster Championship, but 1-5 against Clare in the Munster final is some shooting. David Costigan is another one that he does the donkey work. He does the donkey work, but he can score as well. Like, he got, was it 2-3 against Limerick the last day? He got 3 points, and really just hard-working player. There's loads of talent in that Tipperary team. I don't need to go... I thought Evan Morris done really well, and Thomas O'Connor. Thomas O'Connor was like the big threat for Clare because he's so good in the air. He's such a target man, and he was effective. But I thought Evan Morris done about as well as you could on him. And Charlie Ryan, very impressed with him. Midfield, just throughout the year, maybe more so than just on Wednesday evening, but an exciting prospect as well. Robbie Ryan, good to see him back. And Cormac Fitz was threatening throughout the game. So just disappointing for Tipperary. Jack Hayes had a big chance late on as well, kind of got in around, looked like he was going to put it into the back of net, and he just got hooked brilliantly. So there was little things that didn't go Tipperary's way. Even one of Mark Sheedy's penalty saves, I think it was Cormac Fitzpatrick's shot, where it spun on the ground and hit the post. Now, I'm not sure did Mark Sheedy get a second touch on it to kind of tip it onto the post or not, but that was just one of those moments as well. So you couldn't begrudge Clare. They go into the All-Ireland final now. Tipperary's season is finished, but some certainly players to watch out for the future, and can't go without mentioning Owen Duhan's score to level the game as well. That was big time. And I'll also in the balance of fairness, the Tipperary free at the end of normal time seemed to be harsh. I haven't actually seen it back. In real time, I thought it was a chop, but because of the reaction I've seen of everyone else saying it was soft, I'll take everyone else on their word for it. So there obviously wasn't the contact that, from our vantage point, it looked like. So that's just how that goes as well. But all in all, 20 wides for Tipperary in the game compared to 9 for Clare, and I think in normal time it was about 18 wides to 2 or so. So that tells its own story. So we'll move on from that. Clare go marching on to the All-Ireland Under-20 final, and our focus now in Tipperary, as it does in Clare, turns to Saturday evening. And I will just take a quick sniffle break. I do apologise. I need to get more Lemsip into me before I commentate in this match tomorrow. So now we get on to the main event. Tipperary against Clare in the Munster Senior Hurling Championship. Where do we go? Tipperary on 1 point from 2 games. Clare on 2 points from 2 games. And if Tipperary are beaten here on Saturday evening, then we'll need Waterford to beat Limerick for us to have a chance of getting out. Then we'd need to beat Limerick, and we'd need Cork. I think we'd be okay then if that happened, and score difference and things like that. But it's basically Tip have to win. I think it's the easiest way to do it. Tipperary have to win this game. It's the third round. It's the third game of the Munster Championship for Tipperary. It's actually the fourth round of the competition, but the third game for Tipperary, same as it was last year when Tip played Clare, and that ignited our whole season. Who could forget that game? In Ennis, what was it, 418 to 221 for Tipperary. Andrew Ormond with a couple of goals, John McGrath with a couple of goals. Just what an evening. And just as we take a quick aside about the weather, if you were in Ennis that evening, you were probably in a t-shirt, sun was shining, it was lovely. And now it feels like we're in March, so I'm not sure what's going on there with the weather, but that was an incredible evening in Ennis, and we're going to need to see something like that in Thurles for Tipperary again, because Clare were bet by 15 points against Limerick last time out. You're expecting a reaction. Clare aren't as bad as what they shown against Limerick. We all know that. They're 2024 All-Ireland champions. Some incredibly talented players on their team. If you're going down to Thurles expecting Clare, and I don't think anyone in Tipperary is expecting anything other than a big reaction from Clare. I'd be lying if I was to say I'm not worried going down, because of course you are. If Tip don't get the result here, it could be a very short 2026, and none of us want that. So there's that tension, there's that apprehension, but there's that excitement as well, because these are the days we all live for, really. If you're listening to this podcast, you're a hurling fanatic, and these are the games you really look forward to. These are the days you really look forward to. When you were looking at the Munster fixtures, you had an idea that this is probably going to be an incredibly important game on Saturday, May 16th at 7 o'clock in Thurles. And it is an incredibly important game on Saturday, the 16th of May at 7 o'clock in Thurles. So really looking forward to it. For Tipperary, underperformed against Cork, you'd have to say, but we were still only 3 points behind in injury time in that game, despite not really showing our best. Similarly against Waterford, we're 11 points up at half time. We throw away that lead, we find ourselves 2 points down, but we battled back and went 3 points up, and then the late goal goes in with the last puck of the game, and we get kind of sucker punched with that and come out with a draw. So while we haven't found our rhythm yet, we've been resilient, and you can take a lot of positives from that. I'm sure over the last 3 weeks they've been saying in training that, right lads, we haven't had our best, but we're right there. We just need to fine tune ourselves and get our mindset, get our heads right. And I'm sure they flew into training the last few weeks, because they'll know that this is it now. They have to leave it all out there on Saturday evening. There's no point of holding back for Sunday week against Limerick. It has to be, balls to the wall, everything on the line for Tipperary on Saturday evening. And likewise for Clare, they'll feel if they lose, they have to go down to Páirc Uí Chaoimh. Now, maybe Cork might rest some players because they're guaranteed progression from Munster, but you just don't know. I feel like Ben O'Connor is the kind of fella that will want to keep momentum going and keep winning. As Bryson DeChambeau 10 over par going for this eagle putt. He must get it if they're showing him. He doesn't get it. It hasn't gone in the hole. But God, Bryson 10 over. It'll probably be 9 over after he rolls in that short birdie. But it's just a massive game, massive game. Clare know that they'll probably have to win. As I was saying, Ben O'Connor doesn't strike me as the type of fella that will rest players for that final game. Maybe he will, who knows? But Clare will know that they'll have to win this game tomorrow. So that's why it's set up so good. That's why the Munster Championship is so good, because of this jeopardy. And yeah, let's go down through the Tipperary team. So we've 2 changes. Craig Morgan is in, as is Jason Ford. They come in for Seamus Kennedy and Sam O'Farrell. So Rhys Shelley in goals, Robert Doyle, Owen Connolly, Michael Breen, Craig Morgan, Ronan Maher and Brian O'Mara. That is the starting 7. And if you count Willie Connors at 8, that's the starting 8 from the All-Ireland final last year. Alan Tynan wears the number 9. Jake Morris 10, Andrew Ormond 11, Oisin O'Donoghue 12, Darren McCarthy 13, John McGrath 14 and Jason Ford 15. And interestingly, on the bench for Tipperary is number 21, Jamie Ormond. So he's been rewarded for his brilliant performances for the under-20s. And he was so sharp the other night, real confident. Done the right thing with the ball nearly every time he had it. He works hard. There's a bit of bite in him, similar to his brother Andrew, where I know I've said it before about Andrew Ormond, that fierce, nice fella, and then when he's on the field, you feel like he plays with that chip on his shoulder, which you like to see. But and Andrew's kind of breakout performance for the Tipperary senior team was against Clare in Ennis last year. So maybe, who knows, we could see something like that from Jamie Ormond if he is to feature in the game. And the bench for Tipperary, there is options there. We've Brian Hogan at 16, then Seamus Kennedy, Brian McGrath, Noel McGrath, Sam O'Farrell, Jamie Ormond, Johnny Ryan, Keith Ryan, Connor and Dara Stakelum, and Stephen Tobin. So there's definitely options there for Liam Cahill, and it's kitchen sink stuff tomorrow. So everything will have to be thrown depending on how the game is going. You're just going to have to roll the dice and maybe trust in a young lad or two, or a lad who hasn't played much, because it's all or nothing for Tipperary tomorrow. So sorry, I didn't move the microphone away when I did that. Apologies. But we're going to have to take our goal chances. It's something like Clare have shown to be maybe a little bit leaky in defence. What do they concede? 421 against Waterford, 230 against Limerick. So Tip are going to have to take their goal chances. Like we scored one against Waterford, one against Cork, but particularly against Waterford, Darren McCarthy's penalty was saved. Poorly struck, it must be said, but Billy Nolan kept it out. You had John McGrath's pull on the ground, which was expertly saved from Billy Nolan. Sam O'Farrell had a goal chance in the first half. Remember, he kind of got around the goalkeeper and hit it off the side netting. Tip need to score those goals if they get their chances on Saturday evening. That's going to be key. We have to have a bit more ruthlessness to us, because goals is what has helped us to beat Clare in recent years, albeit in Ennis, where we got 4 last year. We got 5 there in 2023. So we're going to need goals. That's the way I kind of see this game going. I see Clare going all out as well, and we all know how good that Clare attack is. You know, if you look at their front six, Shane O'Donnell, Peter Duggan, Sean Rinn, David Reedy, Mark Rogers, Tony Kelly, that's the way it's named. You could possibly see a change. Folk in Clare kind of that I was talking to could see Diarmuid Stritch possibly coming in to start. Do we see John Conlon coming in to start? Who knows? You know, as the Clare team is lined out, I've named the 10 to 15, but the 1 to 9, let's say, is Eibhear Quilligan, Rory Hayes, Conor Cleary, Adam Hogan, Diarmuid Ryan, Niall O'Farrell, Cathal Malone, Darrell Owen, and Ryan Taylor. So, excuse me now, I feel like a sneeze might be coming. Oh, I really do apologise. We're nearly there, but that Clare team, you know, there's a lot of scores in them, and you know, we've conceded we've conceded 3 against Watford, 324, 29 points against Cork, so we need to lock down in defence a bit. And you know, as a whole, the Tipperary team needs to come up a level or two from what we've seen so far in the Munster Championship. But you know, I'd like to see there's so much more in some of the lads than what we've seen so far. So let's just hope after the 20 days break that Tipperary have had, that they're absolutely hopping off the sod in Semple Stadium tomorrow. Matchups wise, you'd imagine it's going to probably be Ronan Maher on Peter Duggan, Robert Doyle possibly on Tony Kelly, and we'll figure it all out from there, because there's going to be a lot of movement around the field. You could see a Craig Morgan on a Sean Rinn, you could see Michael Breen on a Shane O'Donnell, or who do you put on Shane O'Donnell? There's a lot of moving parts, and same with Tipperary. Like, where will Oisin O'Donoghue play? Will he play as a traditional 12? Will he go into the full forward line? Will he drift back? You know, I have a suspicion that he will probably just stay at 12, but he can move in and out and offer a different look on a Conor Cleary or whoever. But I think Tip will probably look at that Clare full back line and think that there is opportunities there. You know, they're all in their own right very good players, and Rory Hayes, Conor Cleary and Adam Hogan. But so far, maybe they hadn't have their best form that they're kind of known for. So, you know, they've had 2 weeks to get themselves right as well. So you'd expect their levels to be up a bit as well. So, God, it's going to be incredibly exciting. Tipperary's third quarters against Cork and Watford have been poor. That's something that they're going to have to get in check. But it's not just going to be a third quarter thing for Tipperary. This has to be 4 quarters of top-notch stuff. There's going to be 35-ish thousand people, I think. It's going to be an incredible atmosphere, incredible Saturday evening. It's going to be live on Tip FM if you want to tune in to myself and Keane Tracy calling the action. And of course, the senior camogie final is on at 4:45 as well. So get in and cheer on what's a very entertaining team to watch in that Tipperary team, and hopefully they can get over the line and keep this feel good energy going from the minor final on Friday night. And you know, I just can't wait. These are the days you really kind of look forward to. This Saturday, as you're listening to this, I'm probably on the golf course out in Nina Golf Club. Tea time there in the morning. Get a round in, get back, get a bit of grub, head to Thurles, and hopefully come back with 2 Tipperary wins. Hopefully it would be unbelievable if we can win this game against Clare, because it's just bad vibes if we're best, you know. But if we win, you know, world's your oyster kind of thing in terms of where you can go for the rest of the year. So before I annoy anyone else, and I'm going to call it at that, I need to go get a lemsip as Ricky Fowler rolls in a long birdie putt. Back-to-back birdies for Ricky Fowler. You love to see it. But I'm going to go get a lemsip, try and get myself right. And yeah, if you're heading down to Thurles, drive safe, enjoy the game. And yeah, I will have a podcast looking back on the match, maybe tomorrow evening when I get back. You know, it'll be, what time it'll be, you know, it'll be, match is on at 7. By the time I get back, it'll be, you know, probably 10:30, 11ish before I'm back home. Maybe I'll record a podcast then. Maybe I'll wait till Sunday morning. We'll play that by ear, but you should have some podcasts in your feed on Sunday looking back on the game. Maybe I'll wait till Sunday evening after the Limerick-Waterford game. Who knows? We'll see. But it will be there looking back at some stage on this game. So that is it. A reminder, if you have enjoyed, be sure to leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel at P. Carroll Sport. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok is where you can catch me on more daily kind of updates and things like that. But that is it for this week's podcast, or this episode. Enjoy the game later on today, and good luck and God bless.